Millions of Americans have used at-home testing kits from companies like 23andMe and Ancestry.com to uncover their genetic lineage. But sometimes these tests reveal something deeper. This was the case for novelist Dani Shapiro when in 2016 she decided to try out an at-home DNA test from Ancestry.com.
In the winter of 2016, my husband turned to me one day and he said that he was going to send away for one of those mail-order DNA tests just for fun. And he asked me if I wanted to do it too. And I went along with it. For no reason other than that he was doing it. I could easily have said no.
Fast forward several weeks, and the couple received the results.
When my results were returned a few months later, in fairly short order, they revealed to me that my father, my beloved father, who passed away when I was 23, many years earlier, had not been my biological father, which is something that I had never remotely thought, known, entertained. The thought had never crossed my mind that that could possibly be the case.
The father who had raised her was in fact not her biological dad. Shapiro realized she was only half Jewish and was completely unrelated to her half-sister. She had known for a long time that her parents had turned to a fertility clinic in Philadelphia to help conceive her, but never knew that they had received sperm from a male donor.
Why did they keep it a secret? Because everyone kept it a secret. That's something that I learned as I began to research and report my own story. I was essentially like researching the story of my life, like literally the story of how I came to be. And one of the things that I discovered was that especially back in the very beginning of when there were any kind of fertility treatments available at all, infertility was considered so shameful and it was so traumatic for couples who were trying to have a family that everything was cloaked in secrecy. And parents were told, never, ever tell anyone what you've done. The child will never know, and just forget it ever happened and go to the grave with this secret.
So her parents did just that. Now knowing the full story, Shapiro says she is a bit relieved that she found out when she did.
I don't wish that I had found out much earlier because I don't think I could have handled it when I was much younger. I think as a teenager and in my 20s, I had a pretty rocky time of it, especially after losing my dad. He died in a car accident. My mother was also in the car and was badly injured. And I was in a really rough patch. And I identified with my dad. He was my much stronger connection as a parent. And I think if I had discovered that we hadn't had a biological connection and not been able to discover anything more than that, that would have rocked me differently, much harder. I think, with secrets, it's when we find out is as important as what we find out. And I think that I found out at a time in my life that was very stable.
However, she does wish she could have gotten some answers directly from her parents before they passed.
If I could have an hour with my parents to just ask them every question I have about the choices that they made, about how much they understood about what they were doing, about whether this was a secret that they kept from me, or was it a secret that they kept from themselves in some way. The tagline for my podcast, Family Secrets, is the secrets that are kept from us, the secrets we keep from others, and the secrets we keep from ourselves. And in many ways, I think the secrets we keep from ourselves are the most profound kind of secrets. And they shape us and form us. And, were my parents keeping a secret from themselves in some way? Because one of the things I learned about the world of infertility at that time is that great pains were taken to keep parents from really understanding what it was that they were doing.
Because of this climate of secrecy at the time, there are thousands of cases like Shapiro's across the U.S.
Sometimes it's, as in my case, that a father wasn't a biological father. Sometimes because now there are children of where the mother has used an egg donor, discovering my mother wasn't my biological mother. Sometimes it's adoptees finding their birth parents. Sometimes it's birth parents finding their birth children. Sometimes it's fathers who never knew that they had a child out there, discovering that they have a child or another child that they hadn't known about. People discovering half-siblings. I mean, it's just wild.
Shapiro says that the majority of people don't send in these tests with any expectation that it will shatter their past.
These companies don't even like to admit that there's any other kind of story than just discovering that you're 1/8 Italian or whatever, like just fun fact. But no, there are really painful stories because sometimes people can't they discover that they weren't biologically related to their family or to one of their parents, and then they can't find their biological roots. And in other cases, even more painfully, I think, someone will say, you know what, I'm not interested in this. I don't want to know you. I donated anonymously as a young student, and I never intended for this to happen, and therefore I don't want it to happen. And one of the things I write about, one of the things I've thought so much about, is that science has so outpaced our ability to deal with what we discover. The human heart is not made out of a robot. The human heart and what we feel and what we long for. I mean, I think it's safe to say that one way or another, we long to know our roots.
There's no doubt that these secrets are earth-shattering and have the power to forge or break relationships. At the end of the day, information is power, but it's not always a happy ending. You can learn more about Dani Shapiro and her story through her book, Inheritance, A Memory of Genealogy, Paternity, and Love, now available online and in bookstores. This segment originally aired in 2020 and was produced by Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson.
Viewpoints returns in just a moment.
Moments like hearing my cat purr good morning mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
This is Viewpoints Explained. I'm Ebony McMorris. A great number of young people in America are becoming obese. According to recent data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, currently 1 in 5 children and teens fall into the obese category. This means that their body mass index, or BMI, is at or above the 95th percentile of the recommended CDC growth chart. Experts are worried because the early onset of obesity is not just a short-term problem. This population is more likely to struggle with weight across their lives and are at a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes, heart disease, depression, and other disorders in adulthood. In light of this growing epidemic, the American Academy of Pediatrics has come out with an updated set of guidelines. One new focus is to have pediatricians push a more urgent lifestyle approach for any obese child that's 2 or older. This includes a tailored diet and exercise plan that consists of weekly, hour-long checkups to track progress. One nationwide issue that experts are seeing is that the majority of children are consuming too much added sugar and not enough produce. The CDC recommends that children under 2 should not be given any added sugar. For kids ages 1 to 5, they should be eating between a half a cup to 2 cups of vegetables and fruits every day. The AAP is also advising that obese adolescents over the age of 12 take on more intense lifestyle interventions and in some cases start on weight loss medication. For cases of severe adolescent obesity, pediatricians can also consider metabolic or bariatric surgery like gastric bypass or band. While these guidelines may be controversial, experts argue that this push is necessary as obesity rates in young Americans have steadily climbed over the last 40 years. That's Viewpoints Explained for this week. More in a moment.
Welcome to Culture Crash, where we examine what's new and old in entertainment. It's a common refrain that Hollywood seems to be out of ideas, but that's likely never been closer to the truth than it is in this era of giant media companies consolidating. When Warner Bros. Discovery announced the rebranding of HBO Max to just Max, it came with a whole slew of titles that will be coming soon in an effort to keep people excited. That list included The Penguin, a new show that will follow Colin Farrell's Penguin from Matt Reeves' The Batman universe. So that would be a comic book adaptation spin-off TV show, not exactly winning a prize for originality. Some of the other titles announced: a new Fixer Upper spin-off show, a second spin-off of The Big Bang Theory, and most controversially, a second adaptation of the Harry Potter series, this time as a TV show. And while the internet debated the necessity of such a thing, Lionsgate Entertainment then announced it will be adapting the Twilight books into a TV show too. And it doesn't stop there, of course. Disney has been for years adapting their animated movies into live-action movies, a trend that doesn't seem to be slowing down as audiences are being prepared for the forthcoming release of The Little Mermaid, while Lilo and Stitch casting news is grabbing headlines, and a number of other titles, including sequels to Aladdin and The Lion King, are in the works. And then there's all the Star Wars and Marvel content. And now a new goldmine has been struck, since the biggest movie of the year, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and the biggest show of the year, The Last of Us, are both video game adaptations. I have to say, if I were a betting man, I would guess there's a whole lot more where that came from. I'm Evan Rook.
When you get nachos, tacos, empanadas, spicy queso with jalapenos, Pepto-Bismol's there. Pepto-Bismol provides fast, effective relief from nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, and diarrhea. All the things that can happen unexpectedly on vacation. So before you travel, pack the Pepto. Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Gain presents a tale of longing and long-lasting scent. Dear love of my life, we were on the 12B bus when I caught a whiff. A scent so fresh, so life-changing, I had to find its source. I didn't know if you were the woman in the pink freshly washed cardigan or the retired mailman next to me, but I knew one of you was my soulmate. Ah, the scent of Gain Flings. Add Gain scent beads for an even longer lasting scent.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints. Coming up next week.
High caseloads, low pay, and just working conditions that aren't conducive to the overall wellness of social workers or any employee for that matter.
Social work burnout in the U.S. Then.
Has a cave, has a glacier, has mountains, has 1,000-year-old trees.
Want to wander off the beaten path this summer? Consider road tripping by RV. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.